Hey Flower Tribe, it's Kelly Lehman and Lucy Lehman, and we're here at Cranbury Fields Flower Farm, and today I want to take you on a special garden tour to show you some of the fresh cut flowers that we grow here that you might want to grow in your own gardens. And I'm also going to take you for a walk back to our secret garden to let you see how things are shaping up. We did a garden tour back in July, and we told you all about the different plants we have back there, so I'll put a link to that below. But now we're in August, and the secret garden looks very different than how it looked a month ago. So we're going to take a walk through the fresh cut flower fields here, and then we're going to take a walk over to the secret garden, and you're going to learn a lot about fresh cut flowers. So this is one of our sunflower fields, and as you can tell, it got knocked down by a tropical storm that we had. Sunflowers are pretty sturdy, so they usually hold up to almost any storm, but it just happened that this field was in full bloom, and a lot of these are multi-head sunflowers like this guy. I mean, there's probably like, I don't know, what do you think, like 8 or 9 sunflower heads on this guy, if not more. So it was super, super heavy, and then this tropical storm blew in, and that's why this field looks like this. But don't let this prevent you from planting sunflowers, because a normal rain, even a heavy rain, usually doesn't do this, especially to the single head flowers, like the pro-cut flowers and flower varieties like that. They're usually pretty sturdy. So anyway, we're back, and one of the things that I love about this field is that I will leave a lot of these sunflower heads intact so that the birds can eat them throughout fall and throughout winter. And when you come out here and see these beautiful, gorgeous birds every morning, it's just like really a beautiful sight to see. So if you're planting sunflowers, that's something that you might want to keep in mind, to leave some of them for the birds to eat, because it's really just amazing to watch, and I'm sure they're very grateful. So I'm going to look at this field and not get too upset, because I know that I can't sell these in my fresh cut flower bouquet, so it's like a lot of revenue lost. But on a good note, I can leave a lot of these seeds for the birds, and a lot of them I can harvest. So I'm going to leave these flower heads intact, knowing that the ones that the birds don't eat, I'm going to wait till these sunflowers get nice and mature. They're not mature just yet, because there's a lot of yellow on these leaves still. So I have to wait for the yellow in the leaves to drop off, and for the plant to get super, super kind of brown and dried out, and then these seeds are going to get even plumper and darker, and then I'll be able to harvest them, and then I can plant a new crop next year from this year's flower heads. So sometimes you got to work with what you got, and you got to look for that silver lining. But I made a video showing you how to harvest your own sunflower seeds, so you can check that out. I'll put it in the descriptions below, and it shows you all how to actually do that, how to harvest them for yourself in case you want to grow sunflowers next year from this year's crop. So when I make flower arrangements, I'll use some flowers that are in the full-blown open stage, and we'll give it a clip. Always clip on a diagonal, because you want to make sure you have maximum water absorption, and you're going to get rid of the stems, because you don't want to have those stems in your water. That will cause bacteria. And you're just going to plunk them right into a bucket of water when you're done. And then we're going to take a look for some sunflowers like this guy is perfect. So this is in the semi-open stage. And this is going to give me a longer vase life. So, oh, another little ladybug. Look at that. I think ladybugs are good luck. So we're going to give this one a clip on a diagonal. So when it's in the vase, that water is going to absorb right up through that stem, and it's got maximum surface area. So that's our sunflower patch over here, but I want to show you the other patches that we have growing. We have something that we do called succession planting. So we'll plant a few thousand seeds one week, and then we wait a week, and then we'll plant another few thousand seeds, and then we'll wait another 2 weeks, and then we'll plant another few thousand seeds. So you can see these guys weren't quite coming up yet when the storm hit. So now they're nice and gorgeous and beautiful. So let's come in here and do some cuttings with these guys. And these have much thinner stems, so that's nice. Now there's a bee and a ladybug on this guy, so I'm going to leave it alone because I don't like to disrupt nature. I let them have their breakfast, and I'll just choose a different variety or a different flower. So I'm going to come in here, take a peek at this guy. And this one's, I think this is a ring of fire or a bicolor. So I'm going to give him a clip. This stem's super thin, which is so nice. That's the best for arrangements. Okay. And then I'm going to cut a few that are in this stage. They're just starting to open. So this is a really great stage to cut them at, because it's going to have longer vase life. And then we have another group of sunflowers just past this field, and they haven't bloomed yet. I want to show you another pasture that has zinnias and some celosia and some other sunflowers, but I just want to show you this beautiful sky first. Nothing like a gorgeous sky over the sunflower fields. Okay, let's get back to these flowers. So here's another field that's just past my apple trees. We'll walk under the apple trees to get there. I love when all these branches are loaded with fruit. Looks so beautiful. Okay, and here's some of the zinnias. I try to get in close on these gals because they're so beautiful and they're so colorful. Here's a close-up of some of the zinnias coming up in the field. And some of the varieties that I love are Binary Giant. I love State Fair. I love the big giant flower heads that have lots and lots and lots of petals. And you can tell the bees love these guys, pollinators love them. They're so beautiful. Let me show you some of the other colors that we have. Lots of pinks and purples. Some of these flower heads are gigantic. I'm going to show you the size of my thumb next to this flower head. I mean, they're unbelievable. And the amount of nature that you're going to see back here when you have zinnias is incredible. I'll show you some of the orange ones we have. This is a giant bloom too. Oh, there's a little cricket back here. Let's see if I can get you on film. He's a little camera shy. He's hiding. I don't want to scare you, but you're very cute. Oops. And some of these flower heads are really giant. Now these guys are starting to go to seed. You can tell that they're getting a little brown. The leaves are getting a little curled up. And I made a video showing you how to harvest your zinnia seeds so that you can plant them next year. And I'll give you the short story right now. You just basically wait for the plant to dry out, to get kind of brown, and then you can pluck out these little petals, and there's a little arrow underneath it. But right now, they're not going to lift up because they are too immature. So these seeds aren't mature enough to lift out. But if it was mature enough, you would have been able to pull this out, and there would have been a little arrowhead here. And then you would just save those arrowheads and you can plant them next spring. So I'll put a link to my How to Harvest Your Zinnia Seeds video below also. But once again, this is a giant bloom. Here's my thumb next to this bloom. These are really giant bloom. Wow. So wow. Now I have to get back here to deadhead a lot of these because if I don't deadhead them, they're going to wind up going to seed. And once they go to seed, they stop giving up more flowers. So I have to make sure that I deadhead them, and then I'll get more flowers. And basically I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to give the flower a snip right about here to like a new set of fresh leaves. So I'm going to snip them, knowing that there's fresh leaves beneath, and then what's going to happen is I'm going to have another bloom come up from the stem in just a few weeks, and that will continue through the frost if I continue to deadhead them. But if I don't deadhead them, like I said, this guy over here is starting to get really faded out. He's starting to go to seed, so I have to really clip him off. And you can even, if you want, you could just give him a snip down to the first set of leaves. Sometimes I'll go to the second set of leaves because I want to use them in flower arrangements, but you can even go to like the first set of green leaves, and that's the best bet to get a fresh new bloom even faster. Here's some more celosia up close. Look at how giant these stems are. All right, So celosia is a great cut flower to grow in your gardens because they bloom from June all the way until the frost. So you get a continuous burst of blooms, and what you could do is you could deadhead them. You can wait till like some of the flower heads get a little wilted. I'm looking for one that's a little more spent. Like this guy, it's kind of a little bit spent, it's losing a little bit of its color. So what you could do is kind of give him a deadhead, and you can actually, like, we'll use these in our bouquets, so you can go down on the stem, give it a cut, and make sure that there's a whole bunch of fresh leaves beneath it. But you don't even have to deadhead these flowers. This is an amazing flower because celosia is very unique, and that as these guys start to die out, these other blooms are going to wind up taking it over. So even if you don't come out here and deadhead, they're still going to continuously bloom until the frost. And you can kind of tell that happened with this plant here. So this bloom is older, but what happens is these little side shoots that you saw over here on this flower that were very tiny, they start to get really, really large after a while. And eventually these blooms are going to hide these faded blooms. So it's a really, really beautiful plant to have. And these guys self-seed. So eventually these flowers are going to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tiny little seeds on them, and they eventually drop to the ground, and a lot of times they'll reseed themselves. I mean, how easy is that? And a lot of times you'll just see them come back in your garden year after year. But sometimes they need a little bit of help, so I will show you how to collect the celosia seeds on your own to make sure that you have them, and then you could just plant them next year to make sure like the birds don't get them or that they don't get buried too deep, and this way you know that you'll have a constant supply of celosia plants in your garden year after year. So I'll put a link to that video on how to collect celosia seeds in descriptions below. Now let's go take a walk over to see what's going on in the secret garden at this time of year. So I'm going to take you back here. We did a garden tour of what our garden looked like in July, and I'll put that video in descriptions below if you want to take a little stroll through the July garden. But here's what it's looking like in August. You got your beautiful Limelight Hydrangeas, and then in the front there's a whole bunch of black-eyed Susans, and these guys are great at self-seeding themselves. And I've got a whole bunch of rows of Sharons that also replant themselves in a tremendous fashion, so they can actually take over a garden. But I talk about that a lot in the July tour. But what I wanted to show you are some new things that are popping up here in August. I had a butterfly bush that's now rebloomed. It was kind of shot before, and one of the Flower Tribe members said to just kind of give it a deadhead. So this is what it looks like now. And it's got tons and tons of pollinators. There's beautiful, beautiful butterflies on it now, as well as, oh, there's a hummingbird moth. I'm going to try to get all these guys at the same time. So I'm going to be super quiet so I don't scare them. So check them out. This is the butterfly bush they're on, getting nectar. Hi! Oh, this one came in for a close-up. Here's the mama. Oh, they're being very cooperative today. Thank you, gals. So kind of you. If you have small kids at home, a great addition to your garden is a butterfly bush because butterflies love them and it's so fun to watch. And I'm trying to zoom in on this hummingbird moth that's in the background. I'm hoping that she's going to come around front soon. So let's see if she'll cooperate. In the meantime, I'll just keep filming these gorgeous gals. Oh, here's the hummingbird moth. How amazing is that to see? So if you plant some butterfly bushes in your gardens, you may get this beautiful display of gorgeousness, especially this time of year. I find that I see most of my butterflies and hummingbird moths and dragonflies in mid to late August and September. But I'll come out every day and these guys are all out here. The other day I had about 6 monarchs on this butterfly bush. It was amazing. It's like a scene right out of heaven. If you want, you can fast forward this video just a couple more inches because I have to keep filming these butterflies. If you're sick of the butterflies, but they're so pretty, I'm going to keep filming them. Oh, That's it, I'm getting a little obsessed with butterflies. I actually just bought a butterfly. There's like a little hatchery you can buy, and it's like a little enclosed net. It's like a whole little kit where once you find butterfly eggs, and a lot of times I think that a lot of times butterfly eggs will be on milkweed, and I think this is milkweed. I haven't seen a bloom on this, but I think it is. And they're usually little white dots underneath. And then you put it in this little butterfly hatchery, and there's all directions on the kit I have. I bought it from Amazon. I'll put it in my Amazon shop in case you're interested. And then you could actually watch the butterflies hatch, and then you release them, and it kind of keeps them safe. And I also have a hummingbird feeder that I put 3 of these out, and it's got a little bit of sugar water in there. And I'll put a link to my hummingbird feeders too. I found those on Amazon with some sort of hummingbird nectar inside. I'm hoping that's going to attract more because I love watching them. And so that's what the butterfly bush looks like. That was a whole diversion here. Okay, I'm going to take you around back this time. Here's my Limelight Hydrangea that's going to turn a beautiful green pretty soon. Those are my lilacs in the back, and you can see all those in full bloom in my July garden tour. I kind of showed you what those look like, but here's some new stuff that I didn't show you in that tour. So here's what my Nikko Hydrangea look like right now. They're pretty burnt up because they don't get enough afternoon shade, and that's what happens to Nikkos when they don't get enough afternoon shade. These gals do get enough afternoon shade, and they're beautiful and they're gorgeous and dried out like this right on the stem. So I'm going to wind up cutting these back and bringing them in the house and making gorgeous, I'll make a couple gorgeous dried flower arrangements from the ones that had the afternoon shade because they're absolutely stunning. And then when their colors fade, I'll give them a shot of floral spray paint. So that's what my Nikkos look like. So you guys aren't the only ones that have burnt up hydrangea heads. And then take a walk over here to my Annabelle. These are my Annabelles, and they're a gorgeous green right now. These guys do get enough afternoon shade. So they dried out beautifully. They start off white, like creamy white in the beginning of summer, and then they turn this beautiful, gorgeous, dried green color. So I have a whole hedgerow of these gals. We had a tropical storm here, so a lot of them got knocked over, and they didn't get a chance to stand back up, even though a lot of the floral heads are smaller, because I don't prune my Annabelle Hydrangeas back. I like to have a stronger base, so I don't prune mine back. You could prune them back in spring if you want. You'll get larger heads, but your stems will be floppier. And here's another large, giant green, dried out floral head. Once again, I'm going to make gorgeous dried flower arrangements from these dried heads. And I have a whole slew of them back here. Oh, we lost a tree since our last garden tour. This guy came down in the middle of the tropical storm, so we're going to have to cut him back, but that will open up a view to the garden from the front. So you gotta take the good with the bad with nature. So here's what my Endless Summer Hydrangea look like at the end of the summer, and you could tell they're dried out right on the stem. And they're a beautiful, almost like maroon color, and some purples, and there's some of that green in there. But when you're looking at your hydrangeas at the end of the season, you might just notice a lot of the browning that's on top and some of the ugly spots. So upon looking at this guy, the first thing I noticed was like some of these brown little petals that kind of got too much sun. They weren't in enough afternoon shade, but that's okay because I know that if I check underneath this flower, there's a lot of gorgeous blooms that are still here that dried out beautifully. And so what I could do is I can kind of futz with them in a fresh cut flower arrangement and kind of hide the blooms that are kind of burnt out, or I can just simply pluck them off with either my finger nail or with a scissor, and I can actually give this flower a shot of floral spray paint to kind of brighten it up too. But this gal is magnificent. Once again, I'm just going to pluck out the ones that are kind of burnt up. If I would have had some more afternoon shade on this plant, it wouldn't have been so burnt up like this. But that's okay because she's still looking pretty good. So this is a great bloom, and this hydrangea blooms on both new growth and also on old wood. So I want to make sure that I don't cut the old wood that's on this flower. So what I'm going to do is wind up cutting this stem right here, well, kind of like that new growth meets the old wood. I would give it a snip here for my arrangement, and I'm not going to touch this old wood. And this bloom over here, I'm going to give it a snip right about here, because I don't want to disturb that old wood, because eventually new buds are going to be forming on here, and that's what's going to give me next year's blooms. So I made a video on this called How to Get More Blooms from Your Hydrangea, explaining it more, and I'll put a link to that in descriptions below, and I'll kind of walk you through the pruning. But these are gorgeous, and they look so beautiful in arrangements. And I'm going to show you one of our arrangements at the end of this video, so stay tuned so you can take a look at what it looks like when it's actually in the vase. And then here's a back view of the secret garden. I love tall grasses. They give a lot of height and interest. And I have a lot of wrought iron back here. Wrought iron fences, wrought iron gates. And these guys here are Snowball Vibernum. I absolutely love them. Right now they're just green, but in the spring they actually look like white hydrangeas. They look like the Limelight Hydrangeas in back of them, but only in springtime. And I'll put an image of that up now so you can see what they look like. These guys took about 4 or 5 years to get established. They looked like little tiny sticks in my garden for about 4 years. I almost got rid of them, and I'm glad I didn't, because for some reason this year they just exploded. And when I say exploded, they exploded with blooms that lasted for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. So I love Snowball Viburnum. It's a beautiful spring blooming flower, and then it turns this pretty green in August. And here's another Limelight Hydrangea I have back here. Look at my Crepe Myrtle. They're gigantic. They're the pink guys in the back. And I've got some Joe Pye weed back there, but you can't even see it because the Limelight Hydrangea kind of took over. So that's what the back garden looks like. This is our Wigalia. Tall grasses, more hydrangea. Let's see what kind of bird. We got a whole bunch of bumblebees back here right now. Let's check these guys out. I don't know if these are bumblebees or wood bees, but they're giant. They're definitely not my honeybees. We have a honeybee beehive in the back of the secret garden, and those bees look a lot different than these bees. But I love watching any kind of bee, any kind of pollinator. I'm so fascinated with. And here's some more grasses, and more metal, some Princess Spirea. Some more Limelight. I am obsessed with Limelight Hydrangea. I can't get enough of them. And back to my giant Limelight. A lot of you have asked me how old my Limelights are. They're over 10 years old. They did not look like this when I planted it. It was so small when I planted it, and it took about 10 to 12 years to get this size. So a lot of you had asked that in the last video. And then we're back to the butterfly bush. I wanted to show you what some of the arrangements that we made look like using the fresh cut flowers that I just showed you from the farm and from the secret garden. So this is a bouquet of the dried hydrangeas, and they're so beautiful. And we put them in a tie leaf wrap arrangement, and we actually made a video showing you how to make this arrangement, but this is all from some of the hydrangea bushes that we just showed you. And then this arrangement was made from the green Annabelles that were dried out, and the Ring of Fire sunflowers, and then some of the Pro Cut sunflowers, and we've got all different types of varieties in here. And what I like to do is put sunflowers in different bloom stages in the arrangements, because once these gals poop out, the new guys are going to open up and kind of take over the arrangement. And then we also added some variegated Wigalia, and we added some ivy. And that's it. And it makes for a really beautiful arrangement. And know that when the sunflowers wind up like dying out and wilting, they can just be plucked right out of the arrangement. Just lift them right out, and you're going to have a beautiful dried arrangement made out of the green Annabelles. And another florist power tip is that when you're hydrangeas start to fade after a couple months, because even dried flower arrangements fade sometimes, especially if they're in the sun. So try to keep them out of the sun, but they're going to fade either way. But a great florist tip to do is to give them just a little shot of florist spray paint. And there's all different types out there on the market. This one's called Just for Flowers, and it's spray paint used just for flowers. You can either use them on fresh flowers or dried flowers, and I'll put a link to these spray paints in my Amazon shop and descriptions below, because they're so much fun to work with. They come in a ton of different colors, and you can just give it like a little shot of spray paint if you notice that the colors are starting to fade. So that's like really fun. And then I wanted to show you another trick that you can do with your fresh cut flowers from your gardens is you can buy some store-bought flowers and just add them to your garden flowers. So we have an arrangement going out today, and it had to be really beautiful and really gorgeous. So I wanted to add some store-bought flowers. Now I have these High and Magic roses I added, and some carnations, and I added some alstro. And these are some flowers that I don't grow on the flower farm, but the bulk of this arrangement are from the fresh cut flower garden that I just showed you and the flower farm. So we have your Annabelle Hydrangea, you've got the sunflowers, you've got the ivy, more sunflowers. So like 80% of this arrangement is from the secret garden and from the flower farm. And these are all super easy to grow flowers, but if you really wanted to do a wow factor arrangement and you kind of wanted to add some extra colors, know that you can just add some extra flowers that you pick up at like Trader Joe's or ShopRite, and it really makes that extra effort look spectacular. So now you've got this wow factor bouquet. So guys, thanks so much for joining us in this garden tour, and I hope you learned a lot about some fresh cut flowers that are great for your own gardens. And know that I put a free PDF file for you that has 4 of my favorite must-have flowers for your gardens, and you can grab that in descriptions below. And also come say hi to us on Instagram on my Cranbury Fields channel, and please let me know where you're viewing this from in this great big beautiful world. I love to see how our flower tribe is growing around the globe each week. And also let me know any flower questions that you have or comments that you want to make or flower tips. Put them in comments below, because our flower tribe is really super supportive in helping each other with a lot of garden tip ideas. And I will see you in the next video.